Hey everyone and welcome back. I'm Trixks and today I've got a very random challenge planned for today. So in my mindless scrolling through the art posts on my social media feeds, I came across this artwork that someone created based on a couple random emojis. More specifically, an original character that was created using 3 emoji prompts. And the way that they used emojis as creative prompts for their artwork, I gotta say, I love the idea of using something so unconventional as inspiration to create a new original piece. So I decided to give it a go. Alright, so first up was generating the random emojis that would drive the artwork I create. I did a little web surfing and came across a handy random emoji generator website that could give me as many random prompts as I would want. I figured 3 was a nice round number to work with considering my history with using random prompts in the past. So the emojis I got were these 3. Now there are a bunch of different names for emojis, but I think the names and meanings for these that make the most sense given the situation would be a laughing smile emoji, a no or restricted emoji, and lastly a devil or imp emoji. Now I could have gone really abstract with the devil emoji and made it more of a representation of bad or evil in general, but I kind of liked that I could use it as my main character driver. So moving forward, I knew this piece was going to feature a devil or demon, whichever you prefer to call it. Starting things off, for the first time in a while, I broke down my ideas into a couple rough thumbnail compositions to see what I could make with these emojis. The first idea that came to mind was a devil denying access to something, like sitting above a locked door, looking down on the viewer and being so happy and proud of himself that he has the power to deny you something. That kind of covered the prompts in a more obvious way, but I didn't want to stop the ideas there. With the 2 different face emojis, they could also represent 2 different characters, so I experimented with a new idea that there was still a devil, but instead of there being a restricted or no entry twist on the concept, I expanded the idea of the prompt a bit more to say that these elements don't typically get along, or rather that the devil doesn't feel good. So that in turn lent into the idea of there being a happy young girl sitting with a devil, and what could make a devil more uncomfortable than an overly friendly angel. I loved how this concept offered the opportunity to create character design contrast, and after throwing the thumbnail concepts onto my social media for your opinion, you guys preferred the devil and angel direction as well. So I also wanted to give you guys another look into how I created the model and composition reference for this piece in the 3D modeling program DesignDoll, my trusty go-to. Alright, so off the bat I knew I wanted to work with 2 female characters. Not your typical devil direction, but I love the idea of designing a female demon as opposed to a male one. Blame it on how I'm more comfortable drawing female characters than male, I suppose. So it was important I made Little Miss Devil's posture and pose appear as uncomfortable and shy as I could, while not giving her a nasty hunt or posing her so her outfit design would later struggle to be made out entirely. So the crossed arms and the bowed legs were a given, and closing her character off to her companion. Then for good measure, I later clenched her fingers over her biceps as if she was bracing herself. The angel, in contrast, while she does sit by the devil's side, I decided she should present herself more confident and openly, more relaxed. So I arched her back, giving her a bit of a puffed up peacock chest moment, stretched out her legs in a more lazy but still comfortable way, while I kept in mind that I did plan to have her in a dress. And to level up how much she could make the devil uncomfortable, I leaned her closer to the devil with her head tilted back in a way that makes her look down on her, balancing out the seesaw of how they hold themselves. So in the end, the devil was low and curled up, while the angel stretches up high and straight in contrast. Models done, it was time to start building up the sketch. I wanted the angel to represent the happy recklessness of the first emoji that would in turn be the polar opposite of the devil's expression and mood. I'm a sucker for using the symmetry tool in Photoshop by now, so I used that to my advantage in sketching out the layout of her base. Gotta admit, for a split second, I did think of replicating the emoji face entirely, but I think the expression would have been too extreme. So I compromised with giving her a cheeky sideways glance, as if she just interrupted herself laughing to peek at her companion. But then the idea of creating the wings intimidated me a bit, but I told myself she was going to be an angel and an angel needs her wings, so I powered through with a little guidance from the TV show Lucifer and his angel wings as my reference. The sketch of them actually came together really nicely. They look so gentle and soft. It was important for the composition I had in mind to have one of her wings slightly outstretched and curling around the she-devil in a makeshift hug. Now with the angel's clothes, I did a little Pinterest diving to look for something modern and fashionable. I really wanted to be fashion conscious for this piece considering I was working with full body characters. So I came across a style I believe would suit this modern reboot of an angel, and that was outfits in the bohemian style. We're talking drapey fabrics, lace, and very, interesting accessories. They're not your average jewelry. But I love the idea of a nice breezy outfit that would suit her wings growing out of her back. Then I also went for a nice wispy bun for her hair to make sure I didn't overwhelm her design with a long wavy style that would end up overlapping her dress and wings. You gotta keep that nice white space to give the eyes a moment to breathe between elements. I also decided to ditch the shoes for her design in the end to really push the natural polished but wild child look. Then it was the she-devil's turn and I had a basic direction in mind for her. I wanted her to be a very modern punk, to look badass but not so much embody that style at that moment in time. Like she looks like she could kick ass in terms of appearance, but in the way she holds herself, she's a shy little puppy. So I loved the idea of a mohawk, and I came across a bunch of reference photos of modern mohawks that had braiding along the sides while letting the hair grow long and down the back of the neck. It had the potential to look very old school Billy Ray Cyrus if I didn't do it right, but I believe it came together well. I especially love how her horns act as a sort of frame for her hair. I could have done them small like the emoji ones, but I felt like going down the big and statement route instead. Furthering the modern punk chick aesthetic, I've been seeing a lot of harness bra looks in that kind of style, so I kind of loved the idea of her wearing one, using the straps around her neckline and torso as a great contrast to how the angel's dress just drapes down and doesn't hug her body like the devil's outfit would. So then along the same train of thought, the she-devil needed long jeans to hug her shape and cover her legs given how the angel's dress is pulled back above the knee. We're all about those different levels of contrast, people. Gotta love it. Initially I was going to put the she-devil in some sneakers, but thank goodness I realized that just wasn't going to work with how the rest of her outfit looked. I was actually then inspired by her harness top to give her some strappy shoes instead. High heels at that point wouldn't have worked considering the position of her feet being so flat to the floor, but I think the little sandal lift works. Diving into line art, I knew I was in for a long and detailed ride. So first up was the angel. Most of the groundwork was there in the sketch. All it needed was just cleaning up with a few layers of dynamic line work. As I progressed with her line art, I actually felt her dress was missing something of real interest. Something to turn it from a cheap drapey sheet into something with personality. And one of my favorite go-to fabrics and clothes is lace. So the idea of using a lace cutoff that would reveal her arm under the fabric partway down her forearm really appealed to me as I reshaped the lace pattern to fit the sleeve. And apart from the necklace, which just made me want to scream details, the rest of her design came together rather easily right up until I had to start work on her wings. Yeah, the wings. Deep breath. Sometimes I just have to zone out and listen to some good music whenever I have to work with time-consuming or somewhat repetitive elements like these feathers were. But hey, once I finished one wing, I used it as a shortcut to speed up the process of the second one, even though the wings were supposed to be slightly different shapes and orientation. But feck it helped keep me sane at the time, and that's a priority sometimes. I'm not even gonna bother to look back at how long it took me to finish the line out phase, cause it might make my eye twitch. With Miss Angel done, the she-devil was like a breath of fresh air after working on those wings. So much so that when they were both finished, I was so tempted to call it a day and say, here's my emoji challenge, and do it up in my Inktober 2018 ink wash style, or something similar. I'd be curious to know if you guys were interested in this line art becoming available to color in yourselves. I could make the file available if enough of you guys were interested in giving it a go to see how you would color these gorgeous gals. Anyway, I wasn't sure if finishing off this piece in my Inktober style was too much of a cop-out or not, so I put it to another vote and you guys gave me a good kick up the butt and told me to keep moving forward with color and rendering. So off I went into the realm of color. So I had a vague idea in terms of color palette. I knew I didn't want to go with any other cliche angel or demon colors. So the purple that the emoji uses was actually a perfect starting point. With that kind of relative skin tone in mind, I did some color palette reference hunting and came across the likes of Widowmaker and Mercy from Overwatch and thought their color combinations were really inspiring. So with Widowmaker's dark tones and range of purples, I started to build up colors in my She-Devil, tweaking things as I went along, as I didn't feel that using the Widowmaker's exact same colors was working for her. So there was a bit of creative license and tweaking of colors and saturation as I went along, until it started to work in my eyes. To help guide me, I knew I always wanted her skin to be a nice under-saturated color in the purple or blue tones. But from there, it was a matter of making sure colors that ended up next to each other contrasted well. And I don't know why the idea struck me at the time, but I loved the idea of giving her a fun glittery bling nail and eyeshadow. I ended up with a color palette I was reasonably happy with for my She-Devil, so I then moved on to establish the colors in my Angel. So her colors were going to be inspired by Mercy, but there are actually a couple different versions of Mercy, and I found I actually loved her Valentine pink variation a lot. Just the contrasting hot pink and dark blue / black? I don't know.
When you eyedrop it, it changes.
Anyway, with that reference in mind, her features were definitely going to be blonde hair with blue eyes, but her dress and wing colors were up for interpretation. Initially, her dress was turning very pink for a while there, but after doing a nice pale wash of pink over her wings, I just grew to love that idea so much more than using it in the dress. So instead I experimented with using the dark color as the main base of her dress, which I think is a great unexpected twist for an angel to dress so darkly. So with her color palette being locked in and being so happy with how her colors turned out, I knew the She-Devil needed a bit of work to make sure she didn't blend with the angel, but also didn't glaringly oppose her either. So I dabbled with the hue a bit and came across this nice soft blue for her outfit and decided to really work with the colors used in the devil emoji, recoloring her skin and hair for the better to the point where I finally felt ready to start coloring the line work. I haven't done this technique in a while, as these days I've either stuck to using the black line art or chosen a nice neutral color to use over the entire collection of lines, but I gotta say, even without the rendering, these two came together beautifully. Those of you who have been with me for a fairly long time now will know how I create the lighting and shadow layers separately over my line art style artworks, typically building up a layer of dark, environmentally aware color on a multiply layer for one. It took me a little while to figure out the exact environment I wanted my girls to be situated in. Again, I didn't want it to be cliche, but then I didn't want it to be bland either. With a little idea juggling with my Discord members, I settled on the idea of them being in a neutral, open land area where there was once a sea of lava and still kind of remains little pockets of lava in the landscape. A place where I could add opposing elements to the background of my piece, like hot molten lava on the She-Devil's side and an outbreak of flowers and sun on the Angel's. Just enough recognizable imagery to represent the creatures we're dealing with here. You might be a tad confused that nothing's happening on the canvas for a while here, but if you look closely at the navigation window in the top right, you'll see I was working on the environment as a separate file to start adding the cracks of lava in the overgrown lava fields. Hitting back to add a layer of sunlight on my characters, I quickly fell in love with how the adjusted color dodge treatment worked on my She-Devil. Her skin and hair started to look so slick and stunning. I can see why Ross Draws loves it so much. But I did need to adjust the color of my angel a bit to make sure the same color of light didn't blow out her definition. And with a few finishing touches, like a sprinkling of bushes in the foreground to help create depth, their shadows cast on the ground, and the glowing light from the lava, and a bit of color balance tweaking, this unexpectedly ambitious piece was finished. Thanks for watching everyone. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to flick that like button or leave a comment below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. I upload every fortnight, and feel free to check out some of my other videos in the meantime. See ya!